Hi, my name is Rebecca Helbling, and this is my informative speech. This is my audience. Alzheimer's is the cleverest thief because she not only steals from you, but she steals the very thing you need to remember when it's been stolen. Jared Kin said these words to describe one of the most grueling diseases we know of today. This disease takes many of the people around us. Today I would like to go in depth with you about what Alzheimer's is, the causes of it, and the effects it has on the people around it. If we're talking about Alzheimer's disease, then it's important to know the definition of it. According to Mayo Clinic, Alzheimer's can be defined as the most common kind of dementia, a group of brain disorders that cause the loss of intellectual and social skills. The brain cells degenerate and die, causing a steady decline in memory and the mental function. Alzheimer's disease is a progressive disease that affects memory and the brain. At first, someone with the beginnings of Alzheimer's will have mild confusion and other mental challenges, and eventually they will forget important people in their lives or go through major personality changes. Symptoms of Alzheimer's can vary with each individual that it affects. Some common ones would include memory loss, impaired judgment, difficulty thinking, and issues with doing familiar tasks. This can be especially frustrating to someone suffering with the disease. A person can go from being completely healthy to forgetting how many spoons there are in their drawer. The Alzheimer's Association says that they can also suffer with changes in their personality. Depression and social withdrawal are very common in patients. They may also have difficulty trusting the people that are around them. Risk factors of Alzheimer's are very general because 1/3 of all seniors will get Alzheimer's in accordance to the National Institute on Aging. However, some of these risk factors include age, sex, genetics, and lifestyle. The older you get, the more likely it is that you will get Alzheimer's. This fact seems to be very obvious as our bodies deteriorate with time. 2/3 of Americans that get Alzheimer's or dementia are women. This is according to Alzheimer's.net. This seems like a strange occurrence, and it is not certain why. The likelihood of getting the disease is higher if a close relative has had it, but at the same time, getting Alzheimer's is partially affected by your lifestyle choices. Some examples include high blood pressure, obesity, and smoking. All of these risk factors lead up to one terrible disease that currently does not have a cure. The cause of Alzheimer's seems to be a combination of genetics, lifestyle, and environment. These all affect the brain over time. According to Mayo Clinic, less than 5% of the time, Alzheimer's is caused by specific genetic changes that virtually guarantee a person will develop the disease. The causes are not fully understood, but the effect that it has on the brain are very clear. A brain with this disease has many fewer cells and connections than a healthy brain. When doctors examine them, they see two abnormalities. Plaques are clumps of protein that interfere with cell communication. When the brain cannot send signals back and forth, a person can be slower at thinking and performing tasks. The system of transporting nutrients in the brain is called tangles. These are twisted up and do not allow essentials to pass through. The damage seems to mostly be in the hippocampus of the brain, and this part of the brain is essential for forming memories. These causes seem to be the hallmarks of the disease, according to Mayo Clinic and the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. One of the most difficult realities of dealing with Alzheimer's disease is the fact that it does not only affect the one with it, it affects all of the people around them that will care for them and see them the most. Many families go through plenty of changes when a relative suffers with the disease. A large change can be in the family dynamic. The main income may have been from the person who now has Alzheimer's. A different source must now be provided from another person, and they might have to get a job or spend more time somewhere else. Families will also have to adjust to taking care of the person with Alzheimer's. They need a lot more attention and patience. The caretaker will also have to teach them new things, often daily. If they are to do this on their own, families will also need to figure out whether they can have their loved one at home or whether they will need to send them to a care facility. This is a large decision, and often families feel very uneasy about this. Alzheimer's is not a cheap illness to deal with. In 2014, Alzheimer's and dementia caregivers had $9.7 billion in additional healthcare costs of their own, according to Alzheimer's Association. Moving a family member to a care facility has many costs on its own, but often may be harder for them to keep them at home if they need to get another job to pay for the day-to-day things. The Alzheimer's Association said that in 2014, more than 15 million Americans provided more than 17.9 billion hours of unpaid care for people with Alzheimer's disease and other dementia. dementias. Another fact to deal with is that Alzheimer's patients are hospitalized 3 times more often than other seniors, according to Mayo Clinic. To cope with Alzheimer's can be an extremely difficult task. People with the disease experience many different emotions, varying from confusion to anger to depression. Caregivers can help them by listening to them and reassuring them of the benefits to living. They should also do their best to reassure the person that they still have self-respect. It is helpful to have a calm and stable environment, according to Mayo Clinic. Mayo also says that it is difficult for a person to have new situations, noise, large groups of people, or being pressured to remember to do certain tasks. Caregivers have a lot of pressure on them, as they now have an extra job to do along with everything on their plate. Many caretakers also feel very negative emotions. More than 40% of family caregivers report that the emotional stress of their role is high or very high, according to Alzheimer's Disease International. Caregivers can help themselves by asking questions, calling friends and family to help, taking a daily break, or joining a support group. These groups can be very helpful to caregivers and family members of the situation. All of these things can be critical to families dealing with Alzheimer's diseases. Alzheimer's disease affects everyone. It takes an emotional toll on the person as well as those closest to them. This disease has no cure.